afternoon, everyone. It is Wednesday, August 31st, 2022. The end of August, almost fall. Yay, fall. I like fall. I'm not a fan of summer. You might have noticed from the fact that I am completely pale. And it is 3:00 p.m., which means it is time for Women in Business. Thank you all for joining me today. I'm so excited that you're here because we have a good topic that's gotten me kind of riled up, I have to confess. And for those of you who have been to the Women in Business Facebook page, and if you have not, this is the link to it. The article that kind of inspired this program is there on that page. And what the article talks about is something called invisible women syndrome, which we will get to in a moment. There are a few things I want to go over first. First of all, as usual, thank you to everyone who has been supporting me through Patreon and through Buy Me a Coffee. And of course, when you try to use natural light, as soon as I go on camera, the sun goes away. Why it does that, I don't know. I'm sorry that it went dark. Hopefully it will come back soon. In any case, people who supported me through Patreon or through Buy Me a Coffee, I so much appreciate it. The links are at the top of the comments if you care to support me again today. As I said, I appreciate the support so much. It means more to me than you will ever know. And yay, the sun is coming back, so maybe my lighting's going to get better. We can hope. So what we are talking about today is invisible women syndrome. And before I start telling you what that is and what it means, I wanted to read you a quote because I really like this quote. And it's from American lexicographer Erin McKean. And it goes like this. You don't owe prettiness to anyone, not to your boyfriend, spouse, partner, not to your coworkers, especially not random men on the street. You don't owe it to your mother. You don't owe it to your children. You don't owe it to civilization in general. Prettiness is not the rent you pay for occupying a space marked female. And this quote honestly really made me think because I never really thought about it that way, but it almost, in a sense, what seems to matter to a lot of people about women is their appearance, how they look. Are they hot? Are they sexy? Would I like to sleep with them? Not sleep. Well, maybe sleep, but would I like to have sex with them? It's kind of an invisible judgment system. And part of that judgment comes with an expiration date. And the expiration date, sadly, is when you are no longer considered someone desirable. And equally sadly, the expiration date can come fairly early, considering that people in general and women in particular are living longer and longer lives. So this gave rise to a social phenomenon called the invisible women syndrome. And this is a bit like imposter syndrome in that there are people who blame women for it, which I think is a really sad thing, but we'll get into that in a moment. What I want to start with is what this is. And basically what this is the phenomenon that has been documented that when a woman reaches a certain age, and typically it is 49 or 50, menopausal-ish, women become basically invisible. Once you are considered no longer someone who's fertile or someone who maybe is a desirable sexual partner, then your visibility disappears. Now, I can't even get my head around how many things are wrong with this particular phenomenon. First of all, it reduces women to appearance only, which is just stupid and superficial and sad. Second of all, it basically makes a value judgment about women and whether they're worth it or not, and it places that value judgment in the hands of people who would want to have sex with them, which not always, but typically would be men. So that's an issue too, because if your worth and if your value is determined by people who are only judging you on one quality and may have specific likes or dislikes that would disqualify you regardless, then your value becomes that reduced that much more. And the invisible Wyndham, this is going to be hard to say. The invisible women syndrome basically says once you hit 49 or 50, you start getting passed over for promotions. You don't get asked out on dates. You don't get noticed when you speak up. You won't get noticed in a crowd. You may not get offered a seat on the subway or on a bus or wherever it is. Basically, you just become a non-person, basically. You have no more function, essentially. And here's my problem with this. It's not so much that it's a thing. Okay, we know our culture's messed up in a lot of ways. So it isn't surprising that there's a value judgment that once you pass a certain age and you're no longer considered sexually desirable, which we'll also get into that a little bit later because I think that's crap too. But we know our culture's messed up, and we know that for centuries and centuries and probably eons, that it has been men who have determined women's function, who have determined if women are desirable, who have determined if women get a say and a voice and a place. We know this. This is not new. What is new is the people who are kind of going, well, we just have to kind of live with this. And that was basically the gist of the article that kind of set me off, was this woman saying, yeah, invisible women syndrome is a thing, but we just kind of have to accept it and go, okay, that's a thing. And, I'm going to be invisible, but it's kind of freeing in a way, because now I don't have to worry about the constraints of trying to be attractive or, being under the male gaze or whatever it is. And I was just like, no, I don't have an expiration date. I don't want to have an expiration date. I don't want any of us to have an expiration date. I don't want to say that 50 is when all your vitality and everything that's interesting about you and everything that's creative and everything that's desirable about you just poof is gone. I don't want that. I don't think that's right. And I don't think just because it's a social phenomenon, just because it's a cultural phenomenon, we have to accept it. And that's why I wanted to talk about it, because I think there's kind of this, well, my best days are behind me kind of thing. And I think this bothered me really personally, because I feel like I'm just hitting my best days. That I am more myself and more powerful and more interesting and more fun than I was when I was 20 or 30. And granted, I was bad at being in my 20s. I was so relieved when I hit 30, you can't even imagine, because I wasn't good at what the culture told me my 20s were supposed to be like. I wasn't good at that. I didn't want to party. I didn't want to pick up guys. I didn't want to do the things that people traditionally did in their 20s. It wasn't fun to me. So when I hit 30, I was like, whoo, great, that's over. Now I can be responsible. But now I'm finding out that I hit 50 and suddenly I'm invisible. And I know a lot of women who are over 50 who are vital, fun, attractive, exciting, creative, smart, intriguing dynamos of people. And I don't think they should be discounted because of an arbitrary number. Somebody said age is actually, I can't remember the acronym now. I wish I had written it down. When I saw it earlier, I said, I really need to write down what it was, but it was something like actually growing in enlightenment or something. And I really liked that because I think that's true. As you get older, you gain experience and you learn to be more yourself, I think. Maybe because you don't worry as much about what other people are thinking of you. And maybe you found a romantic partner or a sexual partner or whatever. So you're not worried as much about attracting people and being attractive and all that kind of stuff. It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible that as you get older, a lot of the stuff that you worry about when you're young, you stop worrying about because you're older and you know yourself better and you're more secure in who you are and what you're doing. I hope that's true. I think that's true for me. But this invisible woman syndrome thing, and I'm never going to be able to say that properly, I'm sorry, is really an issue because we're writing off an entire generation or two or three of women and saying, well, they're not noticeable, they're not worth it anymore. And to me, that's just crap. And I really, really hate it. Cindy says, let's see if this is going to behave. Cindy says, wow, I just had a thought. I'm over 60 now. How did I get that old? And we have a Facebook user who said, seeing if StreamYard likes me first before I comment. Apparently not, because they didn't give me your name. I'm sorry. I don't know why. StreamYard.com/Facebook, and that should give them permission. StreamYard seems to be a little buggy today, so I'm not really sure what's happening. But we're going to persevere. So we now know that there's this syndrome in the world, and the choice is basically going, well, that's how it is. I'm going to be discounted, and I'm just going to relax into it and kind of float here in this sea of invisibility, or we fight it. And how we fight it is not necessarily how you would think. Maybe, I don't know. You might have your own ideas. These are my ideas of ways that we can fight it. So the first one is don't judge other women's choices. Some women are invested a lot in how they look. They really care. They want to be perfectly turned out. They will spend an hour or two on getting ready to go somewhere. That's what they want to do. When I was younger, I very much judged those women. I will put my hand up and admit that. I thought they were vain. I thought that they were, this is such a waste of time. Why are you bothering? Now, I also will say that a lot of my judgment was because I was firmly convinced at that time in my life that I could not measure up in the appearance sweepstakes. And so I kind of made it a virtue to be, I don't care. I'm not going to spend any time on this because it doesn't matter and it's superficial. And, it's the person who can't win the race saying, oh, well, people who run fast, oh, that's not a big deal. I'd rather be smart. People who are athletic, they're just dumb jocks. I'd rather be smart. If you can win the race, you would be out there running just like everybody else. But if you can't, you may have a tendency to poo-poo the race. And that was kind of what I was doing. I was saying, oh, well, this doesn't matter and this is vain. And, why are women spending all this time on this? And they're objectifying themselves and, blah, blah, blah. And what I've figured out over the years is, what? Don't judge anybody else's choices. If people want to have plastic surgery, if they want to have Botox, plastic surgery within reason. Plastic surgery where they end up looking like a mutant something, that's too far in my opinion. But, if you want to have a nip or a tuck, or you want to get your chin done, or you want to get your stomach tucked or whatever it is, and you can afford it and, it makes sense for you, then do it if it makes you feel better. If, don't judge other women for what they wear. I always hear people saying, oh, she's too old to wear that, or she shouldn't wear a mini skirt, or that's too low cut or whatever. And it's like, you know what? If somebody is, 80 pounds overweight and they want to go out in a tank top and bike shorts, not my choice. But if they feel good with it, let them do it. It's not for me to say. And I think that's one way we can help if we stop putting judgment on people for whatever they decide to do. And for some women, especially if they've been raised to believe that their appearance was the thing that they had to give, it can be very, very much more sad or alarming or scary to have to realize that maybe that appearance is fading or changing. And don't get me wrong, I know beautiful women in every age group, but beautiful changes. There's beautiful when you're 20 and there's beautiful when you're 70, and they're probably not going to be the same thing. So don't judge the women who are trying to do whatever they can to still feel beautiful and who place a premium on that. I mean, that's one of the things that I've learned since I started doing this show, I'll say, is if you look back at the first episode of this show and how I looked and how I look now when I do this show, it's very different. And I take more trouble now. I take more time. I worry a little more about what I wear. I wear lipstick now. I try to coordinate the jewelry. I take a little bit more time. Not a huge amount because I'm never going to be a fusser, but I take a little bit more time because it makes me feel better about being on camera and talking to you. And because when I look in the camera, I go, she's not bad. Okay, she's not a raving beauty, but she's not bad. And it makes me feel better. And it sets me up so that I can do this show and be heard. And that's important. And I've learned not to judge other people. I try not to. I can't say I've mastered it because that would be a lie, but I try not to. I try to just, accept that people do what they do and they are who they are. And yes, Wendy, StreamYard is happy now. I can see your name. Thank you. And Cindy says, oh, well, for me, let's just say I go for the natural look. Well, I love your look, Cindy. And honestly, I think that I do a lot of the time too. I mean, I wear very minimal makeup and I'm probably never going to go much more than this. And my hair is wash it and run my fingers through it. And that's what I do. And that's just how it is. But that's my choice. And for me, that feels comfortable. For somebody else, maybe it wouldn't. And if it doesn't, then they should do what they need to do to feel comfortable. And that's the thing. And I'm sorry, I'm going to have to resort to the water a lot today. I've had a tickle in my throat all day and it just makes me want to cough all the time. So, but I think that's one way we combat the invisible woman syndrome. And I am going to say that right once the first time before the show's over. But I think that's one way we combat the syndrome is don't judge other women. Don't judge other women at all, but don't judge their choices. If they choose to focus on their appearance, if they wear mini skirts, if they wear boots, if they have tattoos, whatever it is that they want to do that makes them feel more attractive or more desirable or just allows them to express themselves a little more. Don't judge it. They're doing what they need to do to feel like they're still visible. I don't think that's a bad thing. I really, really don't. So the next thing to remember is that you control the way you show up. And a lot of people think this isn't true. That, if you want to be noticed, you have to be loud and brassy, or if you want to be noticed, you have to stand in front of the crowd and blow your horn or whatever it is. But nowadays, especially nowadays, there are so many ways to get in front of people. There are so many ways to let other people know what you're doing and know what you're about and get your opinions out there. And you control the way you show up. And that means you choose how you describe yourself. You choose what you talk about. You choose what you look like. You choose what venues you use, all those things. And you also choose how you present your age group and your gender to the world. And this leads me to something that I do want to talk about, which is the fact that older women and women aging kind of have become a joke or a meme. Now, I'm sure everybody has seen at least one of the measuring the sagging breasts on the like child's height chart thing. And we all kind of laugh and we all kind of go, oh, that's funny, haha. Or maybe we go, yeah, I bet I could do that, or whatever it is, because Cooper's droop is a thing. Women's breasts will droop over time, whether you wear a bra or not, whether you've had kids or not, whatever it is. Here's the thing. That little meme is really funny until you start thinking about it's actually perpetuating a stereotype. It's actually perpetuating invisible women syndrome because it's basically another commentary on women and their desirability. And, perky upright breasts are desirable and sagging breasts are funny and haha, let's measure them on the wall. And yeah, is this a minor thing? Completely. It's totally a minor thing. It's a joke, it's a laugh, whatever. But these are the little things that you see and take for granted that over time start informing opinions. And honestly, I don't think it's funny anymore. I don't really find it amusing. I kind of find it a little demeaning, honestly. That's just me. I get that other people find it funny, and that's, it is whatever it is. But you control the way you show up, and you control the way you talk about your age group, and you control the way you talk about aging. What kind of messages do you want to put out there? And you also have to consider that you control what younger women are seeing about what's in front of them. What do you want your daughters to know about getting older? What do you want your nieces or the students that you teach in your classroom? What do you want those people, those women, those young women to understand about what it's like to get older and what's important about a woman as she ages? Do you want her to see sagging breasts and laugh at them? Because sagging breasts are going to be in her future. I'm sorry, but they are. You can do, unless you're going to have, boob lifts perpetually, which maybe some people do, but, Cooper's droop is a thing, man. It is. So how do you tell other people what the value is of you at the age you're at? Is it in whether your breasts are high and tight or droopy? Is it in the value of the experience you have? Is it in what you're doing for others? Is it in that you're a great parent and a great friend and a great spouse? What is your value? Is your value only in this? Is your value only in your face or your body? Or if your butt is tight or your legs are toned? If you can still wear a mini skirt or a low-cut shirt and look good? Where is your value? And part of the way you influence how people think of your value is controlling the way that you show up. What do you do with your appearance? What are you comfortable with? How do you present yourself on social media? What jokes do you tell? What stories and articles and thoughts do you share? What quotes do you share? What do you say about being a woman? What do you say about being a mother? What do you say about being a spouse? What do you say about all these things? Because there's somebody out there who is watching you and you may not even know it. And you may not even be aware that you're influencing anyone, but you are. And that matters. And if you control the way you show up, then you can influence people for the better. And I have some comments here and I love this. Wendy says, I find that after years of never feeling like I measured up, be it looks, intelligence, or professional, I'm finally in my own at 53. Being invisible is fine to others. It's my own self-worth that matters. Boy, has it taken a long time to get to this point. And I have to say, Wendy, I totally identify with this. I'm 53 too. I feel like I am more myself than I have ever been. And I feel like I'm more interesting and more confident and really honestly more desirable than I've ever been because I'm the most me and I like myself the best. And I think that that makes a huge, huge difference. And I'm also with you, and yeah, it took me a really long time to get to this point, and I'm kind of sad I couldn't have done it sooner. And Gloria says, I see some positive things about women in age, like the trend of going naturally gray hair. And yeah, I agree with this. When I went gray, which was quite early, I was in my mid 30s when I went gray, and I left it. And it bothered a lot of people, still does. Um, and my thing was, I was born a redhead. You cannot get good red out of a bottle. I don't want to be a brunette. I don't want to be a blonde. I wanted to be a redhead, or I was going to leave it this color. And I couldn't, I tried to get a red. And unless I wanted to go to a really high end salon and spend a ton of money, it wasn't going to happen in a way that satisfied me. So I decided gray is the way to go. And the number of people that have commented on the fact that my hair is gray is insane, honestly. The number of people that it bothered, the number of people that told me multiple times that I should color it, it just really, the message that I got was that if your hair is gray, there's something wrong. You need to fix that. It's a thing. And I was like, it's kind of a cool gray. I like it. And if I can't be a redhead again, then if I can't be a redhead again in the way I want to be a redhead, then I'm going to be this color. And now I'm kind of used to it. I don't know if I went back to red, I think it would look kind of weird at this point. I don't know. But I agree. I think the trend of embracing natural gray hair and feeling good about it and has been a good thing. But again, you control the way you show up. Choose to embrace the gray. It's something that can work for you. It's worked for me reasonably well. If nothing else, it's worked for me as a talking point. But and yes, Wendy's right. I earned all the gray white hairs I have. Me too, Wendy, me too. So, whoops, I turned off my banners. So the next way that you can combat invisible woman syndrome, and yay, I said it, is choose to be seen. And for some women, when they start feeling like they're getting older, or they start feeling like maybe they don't look like they used to look, they tend to go hermit. They tend to go, I don't like being on camera. I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable getting up in front of groups. I don't really, I just am kind of okay being in the background. That's fine. It doesn't bother me. No, don't do that. You've spent a lot of time getting to whatever point you are in your life. You have experiences, you have knowledge, you have skills, you have all these things to share. Choose to be seen. And you don't have to get on camera like I do. And you don't have to go stand up in front of a group and teach a class. You can do it however it's comfortable for you. You can lead a committee. You can work with a charity. You can join a hiking group. You can join a biking group. You can join a marathon group. You can start your own business. You can volunteer at a museum or the library or whatever it is. Just choose to be seen. Choose to be out there and choose to let people know that you still have value. You're still doing things. You're still vital. You're still interesting. It doesn't matter. My grandmother, who died at 98, was the most vital, interested, and interesting woman I have ever known. She was interested in everything. She loved nature. She loved rocks. She loved animals. She was an artist. She painted. She knitted. She sewed. She wanted to learn about everything. I still have one of my favorite images of her is her standing out in the backyard of the house that I grew up in one night in the winter in tennis shoes with binoculars, swearing that she could see the craters on the moon. And we had an impromptu astronomy lesson in the backyard. Now, granted, she'd had a few shots of Fireball, but she was curious about everything. And to me, that made her ageless. And she was the first person and one of the only people who encouraged my curiosity and my wanting to know things. And I am grateful to her to this day for that. But I never thought of her as having an age. I mean, I knew she was grandma and I knew she was old, but it never occurred to me that that mattered, I guess, is what I want to say. What I knew was, let's go look for these plants, or let's look at these rocks, or let's go on this vacation and learn about all the things that we're going to see. And let's go stand in the beginning of the Mississippi River and be all excited about it and all that stuff. That's what I remember. I don't remember that she had gray hair or that she was a tiny little woman and pretty scrawny. And, she looked like your typical grandma, pioneer grandma, really. But I mean, that didn't register with me. All I knew was this amazing vitality, and she bowled, and she was a teacher for like 40 something years or however long it was. And she, just made an amazing contribution to the world. And that's how she was seen. And she never backed down. She always wanted to do things, and she always wanted to know things, and she always wanted to learn, and she didn't let her age stand in her way, and she didn't let the infirmities that come with age stand in her way. She was just a total role model, and she's who I want to be. If I have the good fortune to live that long, I want to be her. I want to be that vital, and I want to be that inspirational. At her 90th birthday party, there were kids because she was an elementary school teacher. There were kids that she had taught 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, who came to her, because we had a reception for her, who came to her reception to say, thank you. I still remember you. I still remember the things I learned from you. I mean, I don't know of a better legacy than that, honestly. And that's what I mean when I say choose to be seen. What are you going to leave behind? What are people going to think of when they think of you? How are you going to inspire people? All these things matter. And Gloria says, yes, choose to be seen and recognized. Don't compete in youth and appearance. Compete in class and professionalism. And I think, yes, that is so, so true. Because youth and appearance are going to fade for everybody. Class and professionalism are forever. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us, Gloria. That is a great way to look at it. But that's really, if you want to combat being invisible, don't lay down and take it. Choose to be seen. And choose to be seen in a way that makes an impact, that makes a difference. Though, I mean, if you want to choose to be seen by, I'm just going to be the best damn dressed person in the world, go for it. That's a valid choice too. There are fashion icons who are 70, 80 years old. Be one of those if you want. There's nothing wrong with that. Choose to be seen however you want to do it. Do a play, perform, do a show like this, do a seminar. Like I said, the choices are endless. Just get out there. Don't accept that you're invisible. Don't accept it. Rage against the dying of the light. Don't let them put you in the dark. How about that? And I'm so enjoying the comments. And Cindy says, Gloria, I like that too. So Gloria, that comment was definitely a winner. So another way to combat the invisible women syndrome is to help other women be seen. And this is also something that I talk about a lot on this show. It isn't even necessarily being a mentor to other women, although that can be one way to do it. But helping other women be seen is also promoting other women, nominating them for awards, recommending them for shows like mine or other shows where they interview women or they interview people in general. It doesn't have to be just women. Share other people's work. Tell other people that they've done a good job on something. There are a number of ways that you can help other women be seen, but I think this is something that every woman kind of needs to take on as a mission. If you find a woman or an organization run by women or a business run by women that you think is really doing good work, that you think is doing important work, Tell people about it. Especially now that we have social media, especially now that we can go live with videos, especially now that we have this megaphone that we can use it to promote other women. And that's not to say that you can't promote men, and that's not to say that you shouldn't promote men, because there are a lot of men doing great things out there too. And there are a lot of men with amazing businesses. And there are a lot of men who are friends and allies. So that's not to say that you shouldn't promote men. But if you have a platform and if you have the ability or some sort of influence, use it to help other women be seen. Use it to make sure that if you're not invisible, you're helping other women not be invisible too. How's that? And like I said, this is one of the platforms that I campaign on. I don't even know what the word is I want. Campaign on isn't the right word. This is one of the platforms that I push a lot because I think it's really, really important, because men have been networking for centuries and they know how to do it. Women are not always as good at it, and we don't always think of it. And women can sometimes also tend to be a little more reluctant to promote themselves. So if we help each other be seen, if we talk about the things that each other are doing, if we promote other people's work or other people's shows or other people's whatever it is that they're doing, their art or their talent or their book that they wrote, and if we're really supportive and we do what we can to help get the word out, then you're helping other women be seen. The more women that are seen, the less women that are invisible. And the more that we get rid of the invisible women syndrome. So help women be heard, help women be seen. This is important. And Gloria said, yes, take care of yourself and your health to keep the energy level at its highest, eat right, exercise to stay fit, and get enough sleep. And I think she is totally right about that too. You have to take care of yourself before you can help other women. This is totally true. And I think there's also something to be said for do what you need to do to feel like you're at your best. If it's exercise, if it's eating well, if it's getting more sleep, whatever it is, do what you can do to feel like I'm firing on all cylinders. And Gloria is totally right. If you're going to take on all this stuff, if you're going to choose to be seen, if you're going to help other women be seen, if you're going to be a role model and a mentor, you have to take care of yourself, because this is a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. When you're trying to change a cultural construct, it's something that's not going to happen overnight, and it's something that you have to be conscious of always. But I think one way to change the cultural construct is to help other women be seen. Next point, and this I think is a big one. Teach girls and young women that they're more than their appearance. I read when I was doing research for this, and I couldn't include all the research I found. I almost feel like I could write an article for someone about this, and I might. It said that basically the most desirable age, supposedly, or according to studies or whatever you want to call it, is 18. And once you're past 18, you start going downhill until you hit like 49 or 50, and then you're completely beyond the pale and nobody's interested anymore. But think about that. Think about that. Think about the messages that we give young girls and young women. Think about how much we talk about how pretty baby girls are and how pretty young girls are, and all the messages out there that you're nothing if you don't have a spouse, and that romantic love is the be all and end all and what you should aspire to. And that, being fit and being thin is so important, and that's what really matters. And attracting the male gaze is the important thing, and all that kind of stuff. Is it any wonder that when women hit 49 or 50, they start freaking out because they think that their effective life is over? because they've been told for all these years that what matters about them is the physical and really the superficial. And that's really sad. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong, presented correctly, with the messages that you should exercise to be healthy and you should find an appearance that makes you feel good about yourself and pursue that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with emphasizing the health benefits of exercise. I think where we fall into a trap is when are your abs a six pack becomes the kind of value of who you are. Or are you a size 6 or a size 26 becomes whether you're worthy or not. We need to teach young women and girls that there's more to life than this, that there's more to them than this. And I am telling you this as a young woman who grew up with a lot of stuff going on and constantly got messages that said, you are substandard. You need to exercise, you need to eat less, you need to. And I look at pictures of myself when I was like 12 or 13 before the abuse started, and I'm not fat. I got fat later because I was trying to subconsciously, I think, get to a state where I wouldn't be interesting to the man who was abusing me. And then I kept the fat on for a lot of years because it was, in my mind, protection, because fat people are not desirable. Which, okay, messed up, totally. But also a self-protection mechanism. But I spent a lot of years torturing myself over the fact that my body was not going to ever be a size 6. It's just not. It's not built that way. It's just not built that way. And I'm curvy. I have hips and boobs and a butt. I'm always gonna. It's just how it works. But for years and years, I thought that I had no worth because of that. Instead of understanding that that's just how I'm built, and some people are going to like it and some people aren't. And I just have to find one of the men who does, and then we're good. I didn't get that. I thought that that mattered more than whether I was smart or whether I was kind or whether I was talented or whether I was ambitious or driven or anything. And I think that's an incredibly toxic message that we're still putting out there today. That being pretty is what matters, and it matters more than anything else. And that's what you should cultivate, and that's what you should worry about, and that's what your worth is. Now, I'm not saying that's everybody's saying that, and I'm not saying it's the only message that young women are getting. I think the culture is slowly changing, and I think we're learning from our mistakes in some areas, and we're learning to emphasize other things. I hope so anyway. I think that younger women that I've talked to seem to have a better handle on this stuff than I did when I was their age. I hope so. But I think if there's one thing that I really think is important, this is the one. To make sure that the generations coming up don't encounter the abyss when they hit 50, that they feel like, okay, what I look like is one part of me and I have all these other parts and they're really cool and they aren't going to deteriorate or they aren't going to change. And, it matters more whether I'm smart and whether I'm kind and whether I'm talented and whether I have ambition and whether I'm making a difference in the world and whether I'm putting good out in the world and all that kind of stuff. That matters way more than what my appearance is. And when you think about it, the appearance thing is a trap anyway, because for every person who's considered beautiful or pretty or whatever, there are a lot of people who are just average. And they're never going to be gorgeous, and they're never going to be someone that turns heads on the street. And so you're behind the 8 ball before you even get a chance to play the game. So I think we need to take the emphasis off appearance. I mean, I do think there's something to be said from a self-esteem perspective for trying to look the best you can look, whatever that means to you. But if it's not your thing and you don't care, then fine, you don't care and don't do it. Don't worry about it. But if we take the emphasis off appearance and put it on other things, kindness, intelligence, ambition, diligence, creativity, um, I want to say productivity, but that's not really the word I'm wanting. Contribution. That was the word I was trying to think of, and I couldn't think of it. What your contribution is to the world, what kind of good you're putting out in the world. If we start focusing on that stuff more than we're focusing on, are you pretty? Are you thin? I think that would benefit everybody. And I think it would make invisible women syndrome a lot less of a problem. I really, really do. And finally, change the narrative. Stop with the jokes about getting older and the creaks and the groans and all that. Stop with all the, the maiden mother crone things. Stop with all that stuff. Change the narrative to, I'm 50 and I feel as vital as I ever have, or I'm 50 and here's the things that I'm doing now, or I'm 60 or I'm 70 or I'm 80 or whatever it is. Start focusing on what's positive about where you are in your life instead of focusing on what you think you've lost. Start focusing on the contribution that you've made, the knowledge that you've gained, the people that you've impacted, all that kind of stuff. Change the narrative, because Cindy says, so my mirror needs to be replaced. I look in my mirror and I still see the same young girl. And I think, honestly, Cindy, a lot of people are that way. I look in my mirror sometimes and I go, how the heck am I 53? Feels like I was 20 like yesterday. How did that happen? I don't really understand it. So I think some of it is self-image. And if you still feel, I think regardless of what your chronological age is, you can still have a young spirit. You can be young at heart. You can be young in your ideas and what you're willing to try and what you're willing to learn. And I've put up before several times, because I think it's important, that, you can start something new at any age. You can write a book at 60. You can learn the cello at 70. You can take a trip to Europe at 80. You can do, as long as you're physically able and mentally together, you can do anything you want at any age. There is no expiration date. So Gloria says, I agree, focus on contribution. That's a very important one. That's how you stay relevant. Exactly. And I think that's true. And relevancy is something that I think we all want. We want to be relevant. We want to be somebody that's making a contribution, that is making a difference. And the way that you do that is by putting the best of yourself out there. And I'm sorry, I'm laughing at Cindy's comment. She said, wait until you are 61. Where did the time go? I say that all the time. Where did the time go? How is everything going so fast now? But you know what? I think it's going fast because I'm engaged with what I'm doing and I love it and I care about it and it means something to me and I'm trying to make a difference and I'm trying to make a contribution and I'm trying to make changes. And that's why every day goes so fast, because I'm engaged and I'm vital. And this old stereotype of, we all retired to rockers with Afghans over our laps, doesn't have to be that way. So don't let it be that way. Stay vital, stay interested, keep learning, keep trying new things. And it doesn't matter what your chronological age is. I mean, I tell people all the time, I'm 53. I'm like, I'm 53. This is what I am. And for some people, that's very uncomfortable and they don't like to do that. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it. And if you do. I mean, I just feel like I'm 53 and honestly, I'm kind of proud I made it to 53, because there were times in my past when it was open to debate whether that would happen. But I'm still here. And that's a victory. And that's something to be celebrated. And I think my best years are still ahead of me, honestly. I have plans to do a lot of stuff. So change the narrative. Say that your best years are ahead of you instead of your best years are behind you. Stay vital, stay interested. Keep talking about the plans you have and the things you're doing and the stuff you love. Don't talk about sagging boobs, and don't talk about creaks and aches, and don't talk about, yeah, my hair's gray and, or being a wallflower or whatever it is. Don't. Because that's just a stereotype. That's part of a syndrome that we don't need to perpetuate. And if we change the narrative and we all keep making contributions, then eventually none of us are invisible. And I think that's the goal we need to work for. I honestly do. And I hope that we can manage it someday. And honestly, my voice is starting to go a little bit, and that was the end of my points for today. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the discussion. I love having these discussions here. I love talking to you all about these subjects. I was more restrained than I expected to be, honestly. I thought I was going to get a little more like about this one, but hopefully I made some good points and I made you think. And like I said, thank you all for being here, and I'm going to close it out now. I will see you all next week for another show. And this is my 85th show, by the way. I want to just mention that. I was putting something together. I'm like, wow, I've done 85 of these. So 15 more and I'll hit 100. But I'm shocked that I've done 85. That's a lot of me talking. But I thank all of you who have supported this show by watching monetarily, by sharing it with others, by suggesting guests for me, by being guests. I appreciate it so much. It means more than you will ever know. And we've got some final comments here. Let's say, Cindy says the underwire bras can help with the saggy boobs. Yes. And she also said, thank you. And thank you, Cindy. You are one of my major supporters, and I appreciate it. And thank you also, Gloria, for being here. I'm glad you enjoyed the show. All right. I'm hitting end broadcast now. I will see you all next week, possibly with guests, possibly not. I have to admit, I've been a little lazy about recruiting guests lately. I'm going to try to get better at that. If you have any suggestions for guests, please do let me know. Thank you, everybody. I'm hitting end broadcast now.